I am Chris Norris, and that is that's a picture my 9-year-old daughter took, and as you can see, it's no filter, right? There's all my wrinkles. That's me, and so I'm a master social work intern with Arizona State University, and I'm really excited to be here in my morning. I'm in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and it's about 6 o'clock in the morning here. And this is where I've retired to after 24 years of service in the U.S. Navy, and I'm here studying social work with Arizona State. I'm also a meditation teacher, and I do some cognitive fitness coaching as well. So we're going to talk today about mindful meditation, and I'll just go to the next slide that talks about the agenda. So today we're going to talk a little bit about mindfulness. We're going to talk about meditation. We're going to talk about stress and how it affects the brain. We'll talk about meditation and how that affects the brain. I'll give it your WIFM, as I say, what's in it for me. Talk a little bit about how you can cultivate your own practice. And then we'll end the presentation portion with a 10 to 12 minute long meditation. But before I begin, though, let me just tell you a little bit about how I got into meditation. So, believe it or not, the first time I was exposed to anything that was really could be considered a meditation, it was like a guided imagery meditation. And it was in Navy boot camp in 1997. And I'll remember it like it was yesterday. I was laying on the wooden floor of this giant auditorium or gymnasium. And we were at the last event of something that was called the Recruit Olympics. And the last event was the tug of war. And I remember as we call them RDCs, which is a recruit division commander. I remember my RDC had us all laying down on the ground, on the floor there, and he was talking us through, and he was telling us to relax and to concentrate on our breathing and really just getting us all chilled out. And then he was telling us like how now we're gonna get up and we're gonna grab the rope. And then how we're going to pull the rope and all this. And this was like guided imagery stuff. And then when I got up, I grabbed the rope, and everything went just almost as I saw it in my head. And it was amazing. Some months down the road, I make it out of boot camp, I make it into a unit, and then I make it to Naval Special Warfare. And while I'm in Naval Special Warfare, I'm at this school. And part of the schooling, it's a shooting school. So I'm at a shooting school, and they're teaching us this breath technique. And then I remember at the end of this whole training session, they have this big like Monster Mash final thing that we do, right? And part of it was you go through this really hard obstacle course, and it's in Mississippi, and it's in the summer, and it's hot, and I'm wearing body armor, and it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And you get to the end of it. And they give me a pistol, and they give me one bullet, and they say, if you can knock down that head plate target that's 25 meters down the range, this is all done, and you can go in the air conditioner, you can have some ice cream. But if you miss, you've got to go through it all again. So I knew at this part, like this is the part, like they didn't tell me, but I knew like this is the point where I should institute that breath technique they taught me. And what they taught me was box breathing. And if anyone's ever done box breathing, it's 4 seconds in, it's hold for 4 seconds, it's 4 seconds out, hold for 4 seconds, and sometimes you'll hear it 5 seconds, but it's like a box, and that's why they call it box breathing. And what that does is it downregulates your nervous system, calms you down. So I did that on the firing line there, and sure enough, one shot on target. Thank goodness, because I didn't want to go through that obstacle course again. And I went to the air conditioning, and I ate ice cream, and my day was over. Now, years and years down the road from that, I'm in a marriage counseling session. And somehow or another, the therapist, who was also an LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker, had the feeling that I may be suffering from post-traumatic stress injury or post-traumatic stress disorder. And they slid a pamphlet across the desk that was called Mindfulness for Veterans. And this was about 7 years ago now. So I took that pamphlet and I took it on board. I was willing to try. And I went to my first real like mindfulness of breath type meditation session. And there was no dipping my toe in either. I went there and it was led by this old hippie from California, a 40-year PhD, and a group full of Vietnam vets and some Korean War vets and some Iraqi War vets and Afghan War vets like myself. And it was from the get-go, like I said, no dipping your toe. Like the first time I went, it was a 45-minute long meditation. I was like, oh my gosh, that was long. Like that's a long time to sit. And then I remember the vets were like, the old vets that had been there a while were like, we want to do another one. I was like, another one? Like, are you kidding me? But anyway, when I left that night, I remember driving home and I remember thinking to myself, like, I haven't felt this relaxed for as long as I can remember. Like, because when I had been through trauma and stuff like that, like, there was like a switch in my brain that had been thrown. And this meditation thing, just this sitting and focusing on my breath, somehow or another started to move that needle the other way and started to turn that switch off, or at least turn it down a little bit. So that's been my introduction to meditation, and I just stuck with it. I didn't stop from that day. 7 years ago, I still have a daily meditation practice, and now I've been teaching meditation and leading workshops like this for about the last 4 years. So yeah, I'm using my daughter's iPad for my notes, in case you're wondering why I keep looking down. It keeps turning off on me. But anyway, we'll get through this. So this is what we're going to go through. So first slide is just the agenda. The next is mindfulness. So what is mindfulness? Well, mindfulness, as the godfather of mindfulness would say, John Kabat-Zinn, is awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, it's almost easier for me to say, well, define it by what it's not. And like the opposite to me of mindfulness is not like mindlessness, but it's more like mind wandering. And mind wandering is like rumination, time traveling, sometimes has some self-critical talk to it. And mind wandering is something that we do quite often. There's a study in 2012 by Killingsworth and Gilbert that said that people's minds wander about 50% of the time. We're not thinking about what we're doing. So they did a study and they did it through an app, and the app basically asked people like, what are you doing? What are you thinking about? And are you happy? And 50% of the time, people's minds were not on what they were doing, and they weren't happy. So a lot of this mind wandering, it tends to like go into ruminations of the future, or maybe perhaps some morbid thoughts of the past, like these episodic thoughts of the past of things that happened. You know, I know like when my mind wanders, like I'm 48, I start thinking about stuff that happened when I was 12 years old, you know, or I'm 5 years into the future. So mindfulness is just paying attention in the moment, in the here and in the now. It's not a mystic thing. It's not unattainable. Anyone can bring a little bit more mindfulness into their lives, and with that mindfulness, perhaps a little more happiness. And we can cultivate this type of stuff through really like simple breath exercises. And anytime we find ourselves like wandering, you know, getting into the time machine, getting into the virtual reality machine, we can just take a breath and concentrate on that breath and how it feels. And maybe say a little mantra of like here and now, like here and now, because right here, right now, it's really what we got, right? And we can talk more about this later, and maybe you'll see some of this magic happen for you during the practical exercise when we do meditation, which brings me to the next slide. So meditation, what is meditation? Well, meditation, as Kendra Cherry would define it, is a set of techniques that are intended to encourage a heightened state of awareness and focused attention. But now when I say meditation, it's a very broad term. It can be kind of like saying sports. If I say sports, but I mean basketball. Well, that wouldn't be right, right? So when I say meditation, it's a very broad term. There's a lot of different meditation styles out there, and a lot of different meditation lineages. Um, there can be mindful meditations, body scan meditations, meta meditations, visualization meditations, so on and so forth. Meditation is, it's like a crescent wrench. It fits many different nuts. So in general, though, meditation is an exercise that involves relaxation, focus, and awareness. And meditation to the mind is much like exercise is to the body. So the practice of meditation is normally done individually, but it can be done in large groups, which is actually a really fun, really good time. It's normally done in the seated position, but it can be done laying down. It can also be done walking. There's walking meditations. It's normally done with your eyes closed, but if that doesn't feel welcoming and safe, you can just cast your gaze down, or you can just keep your eyes open. So between mindfulness and meditation, if we had a Venn diagram, right, we had mindfulness on one side and meditation on the other, in the center would be mindful meditation. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So at the end of here, we'll have a little session, and it's going to be mindful meditation, which is where we have an intentional mental exercise of focusing on a chosen object of awareness. And normally that object of awareness, we call it like an anchor, and normally that's like your breath. So, yeah. So I probably don't have to tell you too much about like what stress is. I think we're all pretty familiar with stress. But let me just say that stress is our bodily and mental tension from factors that tend to alter any of our equilibrium. So that's stress. Anything that comes in, any type of stimulus that comes in, and especially if it's perceived as threatening or dangerous, that is stress. So, but not all stress is bad. We need stress in our lives, right? Without any stress, I mean, we wouldn't be engaged or anything. Like, I'm engaged in this presentation. Like, I prepared for this presentation because of stress, right? Like, I had to get ready for it. So some stress is good, and this is good stress right here. This is good stress because it's helping my cognitive and my physical performance. It's keeping me stimulated. You're keeping me engaged. And this is a form of stress that I would call eustress, right? But the problem is if we get pushed too far outside of that good stress zone, that eustress zone, if we get pushed too far and we get pushed too often out of that, that's called distress. And distress is no bueno. That's not good for our physical and mental health. And what's going to react to that stress is part of the autonomic nervous system. So as we can see in this picture here, even like my mirror neurons and my empathy, I look at this young lady in the picture and I think to myself, like, yeah, she's going perhaps through some type of stress. I don't know what's on the other side of that thing, but I can see like it looks a little like disturbing to her, and her eyes are off, which tells me her mind is probably wandering as well. And so within the autonomic nervous system, there's which is a component of the peripheral nervous system. It regulates our involuntary physiological responses like heart rate, blood pressure, respiration, digestion. And it contains three distinct divisions. There's a sympathetic, the parasympathetic, and the enteric. So the enteric deals with your gastrointestinal system, so we really don't have to touch that. But let's talk about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. So here, we're probably some of her sympathetic response is happening, which is there's a threat or a perceived threat gets detected, and there's a rapid involuntary response to the situation. You get a flash flood of hormones that boost the body's alertness. Your heart rate comes up, sends extra blood to your muscles, dilates your pupils, increases your breath rate, shallows your breath rate. You get that really shallow breaths. And it shuts down digestion, shuts down sex drive, and we do this without even thinking about it. Like the body just does this automatically, and it's part of the old brain system, right down by the brainstem, and It works marvelously. Like, it's a really good system to have, right? It works great if you're trying to fight some threat or you're trying to escape a mountain lion or a grizzly bear. Like, this is good stuff. The problem becomes is that our old brains don't know the difference between the saber-toothed tiger and the email, the saber-toothed tiger and the mortgage payment, the saber-toothed tiger and traffic. So we're just constantly stimulated by it, and the sympathetic response over and over and over, and over time it really begins to wear us down. So what's the other side of the sympathetic nervous system is the parasympathetic response. And the parasympathetic response is really where we want to be, right? This is the quieting effect, this is the rest and digest condition, and its main purpose is to conserve energy to be used perhaps later on for more sympathetic response. So it's used to regulate functions like digestion, urination, and relaxation. And we can stimulate this. Like, there's ways to, I don't want to use the word hack, but there's ways to get this activated through the vagus nerve and stimulate this response. Many people at worst, to stimulate a parasympathetic response, perhaps they overeat or they eat the wrong stuff. They stress eat, right? They drink alcohol or they smoke. That's at worst. At best, they talk about their stresses, like they get it out. They do cardiovascular exercise. They go for a walk in nature. There's many ways to stimulate the relaxation response. And there's one in particular that you have on you at all times and requires no special equipment, no money, barely any time, and can be done anywhere. And if I were a betting man, I would bet that you have had this with you your entirety of your life. And if anyone can guess, it's your breath. So you can stimulate the parasympathetic response through your breath. And through an intentional inhale through the nose and a long extended exhale out the mouth, will stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system and will bring you back to perhaps even just a baseline, if not below base, and be into a relaxation response. And hopefully you'll feel a little bit of that today. So again, talk a little bit more about stress. And remember, not all stress is bad, but being pushed too far, too often, again and again, that becomes a problem. And that's chronic stress. And chronic stress can kill brain cells and shrink the brain. So the effects of stress on the brain, when chronic stress is experienced, the body makes a bunch of cortisol, more cortisol than it can release. And these high levels of cortisol wear down the brain's ability to function properly. And according to several studies, chronic stress can impair brain function in many ways. It can cause shrinking in areas associated with emotion, memory, metabolism. It can disrupt synapses regulation, resulting in loss of sociability and avoidance of interactions with others. It kills brain cells and has a particular shrinking effect on the medial prefrontal cortex, which is considered the me center of the brain, where self-referential thinking takes place, ruminations of the future, episodic thoughts of the past. This chronic stress can add to depression, add to anxiety. And while stress shrinks the prefrontal cortex, it can increase the size of the amygdala. And the amygdala in our brain is like the alarm bell, and which makes us more receptive to stress. So it's like a double whammy. Not only can I not function as well, and I have impaired cognitive functions and impaired memory, but I'm also super reactive to things. So, this is the good news presentation. The good news is that consistent meditation also changes the brain. I'll tell you a little bit about Dr. Sarah Lazar. Dr. Sarah Lazar is a neuroscientist with Harvard. Years ago, she's a graduate student. She's training for the Boston Marathon. She gets injured. Her doctor tells her, like, hey, instead of continuing to run, perhaps some stretching would be good for you. So through stretching, she finds yoga. She goes to yoga classes. She enjoys the stretches, but she rolls her eyes every time the instructor says, this stuff will also make you more compassionate. It'll make you happier. It'll make you more stress-free, these breathing techniques. She's like, okay, I don't know about all that, but I enjoy the stretches and maybe it'll get me back into the Boston Marathon. But over time, she discovers that, yeah, she really is starting to feel a lot better, not only physically, but in her mental abilities as well. So then, as being a good neuroscientist, she has to figure out why. What happens? What's going on inside the brain? Why am I having these effects? So through her studies with a functional MRI, where she can actually see, activity within the brain, and she has a study where she takes long-time meditators and compares them to people that don't meditate. And she sees that the structure of the brains in the long-time meditators is different than the people that don't meditate. So it shows that and it's the cool thing to me, I think this is so cool. It's the exact opposite of what chronic stress does to the brain. So if chronic stress and aging shrink the prefrontal cortex, in long-time meditators, they see that it increases the cortical thickness of the prefrontal cortex. Whereas chronic stress makes the amygdala enlarge, and this meditation will actually shrink the amygdala. And there's also changes in what's called the that makes me hungry. Temporoparietal junction, which is which is in your head here, and that is where your perspective taking comes from, your empathy and your compassion for others. So cool, right? And to get this just from sitting every day and focusing on my breathing, I mean, that's a pretty good return on investment, I think. So here's the whiff. This is what's in it for me. Core skills. A regular meditation practice will bring about four things. Your concentration is going to increase. Your ability to focus and stabilize your attention increases. Your clarity, your awareness of your internal landscape is going to increase, where you have the ability to track components of a sensory experience as they arise in various combinations, moment by moment. Your equanimity is going to increase. Equanimity is basically, my equanimity is increased. That means I don't bang off the guardrails of life so much. I don't go from like emotion to emotion, just being pulled and pushed each way. I'm able to just be with the experiences with an attitude of a gentle matter-of-factness. That's equanimity. And then my empathy, my perspective taking, my ability to have compassion for other people's experiences increases through meditation. And how do I cultivate a practice? So cultivating a practice, I would say start small, right? Set aside 5 minutes, maybe even 2 minutes, maybe even 3 breaths. Just set that aside every day. A lot of people like to do it in the morning. Some people do it in the morning and night. Some people do it on lunch break. But take 5 to 30 minutes a day for maybe meditation, yoga, some art, or some type of other mindful activity you enjoy. Maybe it's just taking a walk in the park and noticing the sounds of the birds or the grass or what have you. Create little mindful pauses throughout the day. Maybe take 1 to 5 minutes to just slow down, feel the body, breathe more fully, let go of your thoughts, and return to the present moment with gratitude and acceptance. And there's an acronym for that. I call it STOP, which is just that. The S is stop what you're doing. The T is take 3 deep breaths. The O is observe what you feel in your body, what you feel around you. And then the P is proceed mindfully. So STOP is the acronym to use there. And you can surround yourself with support. Get books, audio books, real paper books, phone apps. There's tons of apps out there. One of my favorites, Partial Insight Timer. I'm on there. Chris Norris, check me out. And then stay motivated in your practice. You can join a meditation group. There's lots of online groups, and there's also in-person groups now. Do a meditation retreat. Again, start small. They probably won't even let you sign up for like a 30-day unless you've done a 3 or 4 day. But do like a 3-day meditation retreat, maybe to a 10-day, to a 30-day if you can afford that. Good for you. And remember that consistency is key. And consistency is key. And what I mean by that is it's better to do a 2-minute practice every day than it is to say, oh, I'm just going to do 30 minutes on Saturday. So consistent practice is going to be best in my experience. So that's enough talking about it. You guys want to be about it. I'm going to stop the share and we'll do a short meditation practice. It's going to be about 10 to 12 minutes long. And then at the end, we'll open up the floor for discussion. I can take any questions or anything. So, if you're all ready, and cameras on, cameras off, it's totally your choice, no big deal. We're going to start this meditation practice with 1 bell, and we'll end it with 3 bells. So as we begin, let's take a breath in through the nose, exhaling out through the mouth. And you can choose to perhaps close your eyes if it feels safe, or just shift your gaze gently downward, settling into your seat, on the chair or cushion. Your spine should be erect without being stiff. You want to sit upright, but not uptight. Your hands are on your legs or in your lap, palm up, palm down. It's your choice. You're always left in choice. Your head is over your shoulders, and your shoulders are over your hips. Begin to notice the contact points of your body on the chair or the cushion. The contact of your feet on the floor. And mindfully make any adjustments you need in order to be comfortable. Let's begin this practice by taking 3 deep cleansing breaths together. Those will be in through our nose and out through our mouth. And when we breathe in through our nose, we really want to breathe in and feel the diaphragm pulling down. We want to try to breathe into the belly, really fill the belly with air. And when we breathe out of our mouth, we're just going to release. We're going to release. We're not going to push the air out. We're just going to let it release from the back of our throats. Don't be shy. You can make some noise. It's good stuff. And as we begin, we're going to begin by breathing out. So breathing out of our mouths. Breathe out of your mouth. Push all that air out. Push all the air out, bringing your belly all the way to your spine. Now breathing in through your nose. Feel the air traveling all the way down into your belly. Hold it at the top. And release it out. Releasing and relaxing. Releasing, relaxing. Good. In through the nose. All the way down into your belly. Hold it at the top. And now release it out. Releasing, relaxing, releasing, relaxing. Last one. In through the nose, all the way down into your belly. Hold it at the top. And release it out. Releasing, relaxing, releasing, relaxing. Allow your breathing to return to normal. In through the nose and out of the nose. Begin to notice any obvious places of tension in the body. Perhaps we can begin to soften those obvious places of tension. Tend to carry a lot of tension in our forehead and around our eyes. Perhaps we can breathe into those places and feel a slight expansion. And as we breathe out, relax into this newfound space. Perhaps we can soften our eyes and relax our jaw. Taking a moment to notice the breath coming in, the breath going out. Follow the breath all the way in, and follow the breath all the way out. We're not trying to change it, not trying to fix anything. We're just breathing in and breathing out. Perhaps noticing where you feel the breath most fully. Maybe it's at the nostrils. Maybe it's at the rising and falling of the chest or belly. Perhaps we can pick one place to bring our attention to and try to stick with it. Just keep our awareness light and gentle. We're just here, simply breathing in the moment. Breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out. We will now practice in silent meditation for 1 minute. Each time our attention moves away from the breath, distracted by a thought about something we have to do, or something perhaps that's bothering you or worrying you, notice the thought, acknowledge the thought, and then let it go. This drifting of the mind doesn't mean that you can't meditate or that you're doing something wrong. It just means that you, like all people, have this wonderful thinking mind, this storytelling mind. The noticing that the mind has wandered and a gentle return of focus back to the breath is the act of mindful meditation. And each time we can do this without judgment, you're creating pathways back to the present moment. In the words of the late Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. Continue to mindfully breathe in this way, following the breath all the way in, following the breath all the way out. We will now practice in silent meditation for 1 minute. Training of the tension on the breath, it's often like training a puppy. Pick the puppy up and you tell the puppy to sit, and the puppy wanders away. Pick the puppy up, put the puppy back down, a little more stern, sit, stay, but the puppy wanders away. It's just what puppies do. There's no need to beat the puppy. There's no judgmental storyline of the puppy. Puppies wander, just as the mind wanders. We just gently return to the breath, again and again. Breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in. And breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out. And as we bring this meditation to a close, we can keep our eyes shut or gaze cast down just a little while longer. Take a moment. See how you're feeling. Bringing attention to your body. Bringing attention to the contact points of your sit bones on the chair or the cushion. Contact points of your feet on the floor or the cushion. And perhaps offer yourself a little bit of gratitude. Gratitude for taking this time today to be quiet, to breathe, and to bring yourself into a little bit of balance. And slowly we come back into the room, aware of our body. We can invite any movement that feels good into our bodies. Perhaps we can bring our arms up overhead. And down. We can perhaps turn our head to the left. Turn our head to the right. We can look up. We can look down. We can look ahead. And if you closed your eyes, you can flutter them open, or perhaps bring your gaze upwards. All right. Well, that concludes my presentation. I've left some time, not as much time as I would have liked to, because I really would have liked to talk to y'all longer, but there's some time left for discussion. If anybody would like to unmute and make any comments, you're more than welcome. If not, I can talk all day. Any questions, comments, concerns? Do I owe anyone a refund?
Thank you so much for this presentation. I was really looking forward to it all week. I actually started getting really serious about mindfulness and meditation, I would say in October, after a series of events that really surfaced a lot of past trauma for me. And I wanted something that would really help me just once and for all really address it and move forward peacefully. And it's really changed my life. And I do a mindfulness session on Thursdays for an hour in the evenings with an online group. And then I do on my own, like 10 minutes a day with the Calm app. And it's just really been wonderful. I've seen a dramatic difference. And I'm curious from your perspective, what are some additional things as a fairly new practitioner of this? What are some ways that I could branch out, try new ways to meditate, and different resources that I could try?
Yeah, so great question. I'm stoked that you're finding some healing through meditation. That really makes my heart happy. I think just branching out, it depends what type of meditation you're doing. I could probably make a safe assumption to say it's maybe like mindfulness meditations where you're maybe concentrating on breath or something like that. So you
Right.
could branch out into like maybe like loving kindness meditations, forgiveness meditations, joyous meditations, maybe even guided imagery meditations. Also, walking meditations are really cool. If you haven't done walking meditations, it's really neat. That's like a really slow practice. Yeah, so I mean, there's just so much out there, you know. It's like we have an abundance of resources on YouTube, or I haven't been on the Calm app. I'm sure it has a lot of different meditations, but Insight Timer also has a ton of different meditations and different styles. So I think that's one thing. I think also like perhaps somewhere down the road of doing a retreat would be really nice. You know, it's like a 3 or 4 day to start, and then move maybe into a 10 day, and then if we can ever get the time off for a 30 day would be awesome. I'm trying to do that myself, but see how the wife feels. Yeah, so that's I mean, and I think branching out and trying different types of meditations is like it's important to do because I've been at the practice a long time and I tend to like just plateau and it kind of gets flat for me, so I have to do something else and then return to what I love, and what I love is mindful meditation, but I do all sorts of different things now. Hopefully that's helpful.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
I just want to thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Bo.
I'm glad I saw it on Instagram and managed to follow the link. You know, seemed like you had to. You know, the link was just going to be impossible to since you can't copy and paste. I wrote it. You know, it's like 30 something characters long or something. So I found it on one of your other. I don't know. Somehow I've managed to find it and then logged into, you know, but I used a Hotmail address that had the both links on it.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
my Instagram kung fu is not too strong, honestly. But
no, it worked. I mean, I'm glad. I wanted to come and see what
glad you're
was
here.
to support you. I wish Dane could have been here, but you know, from our other meeting. But he goes to an in-person meeting in Pensacola, Florida, on Wednesday at this time. So that's the only reason he didn't show up, I think. But yeah, I was happy. I hope you'll do it again. I'm up for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to see you, and tell our mutual friend Dane I said hello. And yeah, I'm starting to lose all my online meeting friends to in-person meeting friends, which is a good thing. But
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, just yeah. Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
I'll be back.
Good seeing you.
Would you ever consider running like an online session every once in a while? Um, like being an online meditation group facilitator every once in a while? I'd like to join that.
Okay. Yeah. Perhaps that's a thing. Yeah. I did that for a while. From Japan, I had a meditation group. It was called Masawa Meditates, and yeah. So and we started that right before the pandemic. So we were doing face to face, and it was getting pretty popular and gaining a lot of traction. And then we went online, and it kind of petered off. And then yeah. So that might be a thing, though. I mean, yeah, we'll see. I'm not going to say a yes right now because I have so much on my plate, but perhaps in the future, yeah, that might be a thing. Like maybe even if it's just a monthly thing, yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, like a little touch base. I liked your facilitation style. That's why I asked. But I know I'm not demanding an answer right now. But thank you for considering it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and just let's yeah, I mean, stay in touch. I'm Chris Norris all over the internet. Um, LinkedIn is a good place to find me, and YouTube. You can be one of my 5 followers on YouTube.
Okay, cool. I'll check it out. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's also important to note, Chris was also talking about creating some meditations that would be living in the Hear Me space so that people could, in short, find a 5 or a 10 or a 15-minute meditation centering some different things just to have access to, whether it be because they need it or after a chat that they take. So look out for those things coming shortly. Once we figure out how to get them on the site and all that good stuff, it's going to be a real thing. So we'll get more Chris. And then if everything works out, we'll also get Chris back as a guest speaker for one of our panels. But I won't spoil the fun on that just yet.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, for sure. So we are, yeah. So I am recording meditations, and yeah, definitely tune into those. I think they're going to be so cool because, well, for me, like the coolest things, like the background noises, they're all like organic. Like I'm making those myself right here at my house in Chiang Mai, Thailand. So when you hear bird noises or noises of rain or noises of chanting, that is coming right from my house because I live right behind a Buddhist temple. And I was really hoping the monks, I don't know why they're so quiet this morning. They were meditating just yesterday. Cassandra could vouch for that because we had our supervision meeting and they were chanting. I'm surprised they're not chanting this morning because it's a Buddhist holiday here. So yeah, surprised they're not chanting. I don't know. I'm sure they didn't get the memo to keep it down for me, but so when you listen to those meditations, the background noises, that's all organic stuff. And the piano, much like the picture at the beginning of this presentation, was also done by my 9-year-old daughter. So she gets some royalty. She gets to stay in the house for free and eat food and such from that. Yeah.
Hey, Chris.
Hey,
Hey.
boss, supervisor, sit up straight.
So, oh gosh, I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed your presentation. I thought it was really great. And I think I really needed that meditation, and it was very helpful. And I feel very relaxed now. So I'm glad to have been a part of this, and I just really thank you again for going ahead and putting this all together.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, and I feel really relaxed too. I'm sure some of it is just the anxiety that the presentation is over, but because I mean, believe it or not, I've been doing this a long time, right? I'm still subject, and I don't want to say a victim, but I'm still subjected to anxiety and stuff like that. So and this stuff works. Like it's practical things. Like before I hopped on this call, I did a meditation. And like these breath practices, real short stuff. You just if I can just stop, take a breath in through my nose, all the way down into my belly, hold it for a second, allow it to release out. That long extended exhale, like it literally, I mean, it's science, right? It's like you are going to engage what's called the vagus nerve, and thank goodness in this case, what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in vagus nerve, and it will go throughout your body, and it stimulates the relaxation response, which is the parasympathetic nervous system. And when you think about it, like you do this stuff and you don't even think, like you don't have to think about it. Like if you get scared, what's one of the first things you do if you're frightened? Like, right? Big breath in. What happens when you're really frustrated? Someone asks you how your day is going, you're like, extended exhale, right? It's like you're doing it and you're not even thinking about it. So then when you can do it intentionally, it's really great. It's a great thing. And there's all sorts of different breathing exercises out there. There's things like 4-7-8 breathing, box breathing, ratio breathing, 1-2 ratio breathing. I want to go down the Wim Hof path, but there's Wim Hof style breathing out there, which is kind of neat. We've never done Wim Hof style stuff. It's something else, that's for sure. Yeah.
Well, Chris, I want to just thank you again, like everyone else has, for creating the space, but also moving forward to offer this, just as a sense of reminding people to self-care, to take space, to do things with intention. I think, Hear Me is more than just the app or the peer-to-peer support space, but it really centers empathy and what it means to sustain and grow that. And so I'm hoping that people take away from this the ability to pause, check in, regulate, and create a practice of care and love for themselves. So thank you for being a container for that and for helping me build a broader community where people have access so that we can keep this work going and change the world.
Absolutely. Well said too, VJ. Thank you so much.
No
It's really
problem.
it's an honor to be here and to be able to bring this to the audience.
Amazing.